What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I'm gonna go over some quick analysis on BTC and ETH. Let's jump into the charts. On BTC here, I'm gonna begin on the weekly as usual, do a little bit of top down. Obviously, we're still trading at and around and right now under still that yearly open. This is a very important level for BTC to flip. And once flipped, you can anticipate an accelerated move towards that 100K psychological level of resistance and price in the chart. I wanted to point out here these wicks that we had initially on the first moves up to all-time high on BTC here when price had first went over and surpassed that 90K level. These wicks to me are where I do believe price is going to go to if we do successfully flip the yearly open and move in an accelerated fashion towards 100K. In my opinion, we would have to retest at around these wicks. This is a level where structure was consolidating above before we made the 3 pushes into the last all-time highs into the most recent rejection. And for that reason, I will look to swing short if we ever do reach that level. I would also anticipate early bears getting absolutely blown to bits if that were to happen. The problem now being is that there's extremely low volume in the market, and we need something real serious to happen for there to be a pump towards that level, in my opinion. So let me just really quickly scroll down to the 1 day here, show you guys my little thought process here in this range. I like to really point out this level here. This is a 1 day demand zone. We traded above when we had first printed it, right? This is when we made our first pushes into all-time high. We came down, retested the top end after front running it a few different times and made a new all-time high before sweeping and then eventually closing below the first all-time high candle wick highs. And that for me is an SFP, and we eventually rejected out of that SFP, deviating below this level of demand, right? We eventually broke back above, flipped it before pushing into the all-time highs that we now have considered as the current tops. Today's price action, we did the same sort of price action that we did previous, except this time around, we held the current higher lows. You could see that I changed around the sort of blocks I'm using here to make my vision a little bit more clear on what I expect and what I see. We really played this block extremely nice. I mean, if you're following momentum on any given day, you're specifically looking for these type of reactions. We had a deviation and a dip below this block. We had an oversold trigger on the RSI when we dipped below the bottom end, and we flipped back above it with price. We came down, retested the bottom end here before eventually looking for a flip up of the 50. And then again, another deviation here on the top end with these sort of highs here that eventually broke down this block before rejecting straight through it in the beginning of the week. We then deviated once more on this push down before being oversold in the RSI again. We printed the higher low in the RSI as well before eventually flipping it back up. And we're at today's price action here. Let me just clear up all those drawings here and get back to today's price action. I want to show you guys this because it shows you how you can really look at a level and help it form your bias intraday, right? We're trading around a big higher time frame level, but also showing lower time frame immediate intraday triggers to get into the position. Form your bias, plan the trade, and execute it thereafter. That's the name of the game, and that's what I'm really seeing. Now let's jump into what I think can happen soon, what's happened today, and where we are heading from here. So right now, we are still holding and consolidating at and around this 4-hour level of demand here. I pointed this level out as a consolidation level. We were holding it in my last analysis. We were looking to hold it. And today, we actually pushed up into it, retested it almost fully, still held that low, and now we're trading above it again. So we did actually close that 4-hour candle above it intraday, and now we're looking to make a push. I am long some alts here just for that reason alone. If we do hold this level, I do assume we're going to push up to 93.9 and so on and so forth. If we do lose this level here, then I will still look to target this 89.2 to 88.8 sort of, let's say, midline of this impulse. Also the top end of the previous range. Also this little low here that held before we actually teleported down. That for me would be a good level to long, assuming that, you know, we actually get a good retest, right? Because we haven't been getting a lot of those. And if we do end up falling below this block here, I mean, I can see that also being a little bit of a problem, and I could see a case for a waterfall straight down as well, right? That's not out of the question. We're not in the clear just yet for BTC. Intraday, this is what I'm seeing, and this is what's helping me maneuver. When I look at the hourly perspective, looks a lot more messier. A lot more messier. We are slightly under the 50. Again, we did retest almost fully that 4-hour level of demand, which we have been holding. We do have these flat candle lows here at around that 89.2, so that does tie in nicely with my sort of analysis that I'm looking at. We have untapped demand here at the top end of the range that we traded in the beginning of the week before we flipped back upwards. So 87.2 would also be a nice level, but again, I don't even really want to see that low if we are going to push. I'd want it to be somewhat of a quick reaction like we saw here today. Assuming that people are taking longs here with their invalidation below the lows and people are taking shorts here with their invalidation above the highs, we are seeking liquidity for the next move in my opinion. So don't get chopped up in the middle here. That's where I stand for BTC, and that's what I'm going to be playing. If we do look to flip up the yearly open and maybe look to sweep these highs at around 93.9, 94.8, maybe I'll look to short before that 95.8 level, assuming that we're just looking to grab liquidity before the next move down. Maybe put in a bearish divergence there. I know we already have put in a bearish divergence in the price, but maybe we could look for a third, something like this with price. Would need a pretty vicious pump here, I would say, before the weekend even happens, in my opinion. And it's been quite some time since we have seen a weekend give significant pullback. Even this last one, we chopped around into Sunday night before rejecting. It's been quite some time since we did that, and that was even impressive to me. I did not expect that. We were short for that, but can't always expect something that just happened to happen again. And that for me is my analysis on BTC. ETH, let's take a look here. Really quickly jump into this one. I do think that ETH is one to watch over BTC. I can see alt strength coming back against BTC. That's assuming if BTC wants to chop around this little tight range. If we do see BTC keep holding little floors on these little $2,000 moves, I can see alts giving way for a much cleaner recovery. And we're seeing so on ETH against BTC. I mean, we're seeing the signs of strength. We're not seeing as choppy of price action that we are seeing in BTC. That is also for another reason, being that alts have taken a lot more of a hit than BTC. So naturally so, I do think that they can see a recovery in that sense, especially when you look at the pairings as well. But in today's video, we're just going to kind of look at ETH and what we expect from here. I was looking for at around that 30.26 to 29.80 level. That was at like around this low here, that flat candle low. I really wanted us to sweep that one-day low from yesterday, and I do think it's still possible. That being said, we do have a significant block here that I drew out on the weekly. This weekly level of supply that eventually broken down, printed our bear market lows before we eventually pushed back up, flipped it, deviated below, flipped it, came back below, deviated even further, before retesting the bear market range and then flipping it back up again before pushing up into the new highs. We did break down and deviate that level once more, and we're looking to flip up and hold it on the weekly. And if we do confirm it, I can see ETH pushing up against these highs here at 3,600. I think this is a good level. I think it's a level that's going to make people super bullish on price. Maybe get trapped up here before price goes a little bit lower. For me, it's where you see price going and where you could get an entry to go towards that level that you see price going. And that, in my point of view, is still at around that 30.26 level to 29.89 level. I do still want to see the one day from yesterday get swept. I think it's possible. Depending on what happens in today's one-day closure, I might tweak it a little bit. If we do close around this level, maybe we look for a one-day sweep of today's low. It was a little bit scary there once we made that 4-hour retest for BTC today. And the 4 hour is a little bit heavy on ETH as well. You can see not really anything significant. And again, just like BTC, you got to assume people are taking their longs in validation above the lows, shorts in validation above the highs, assuming one of those sides get taken first before the next move. If we do retest at around this level of demand here, which again is around my limit, that is where I'd want to get long. So, I mean, if we get a high sweep into that retest, or if we get a low sweep into that retest, that's where I'm looking along. That's a really logical level to long in my opinion, and I think it could fuel for the next move up. That's my analysis today, guys, on BTC and ETH. I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for the next video. I'm gonna be dropping some analysis on alts alike, just like I did today. Make sure to use all my links in the description down below. If you don't have an account to trade with, make sure to check out Blofin. See you guys in the next. Peace.